Welcome to the Coaching Coach podcast. We are 48 hours away. 48 hours from the biggest game in Ole Miss history. We are the Coaching Coach podcast. I am the defensive coordinator. My job is to make sure that y'all don't score points on us, hold you to a field goal, try to turn you over. Even in that, I got to bend but don't break, because I got a guy that's right beside me that know how to put points on the board. And when he get to running his plays, you will be in trouble. That guy right beside me is Coach Hare. I am Coach Marks, and we make up the Coaching Coach podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button on TikTok. Make sure you hit that screen. Let us know that you're there. Facebook, let us know that you're there. Hit that follow button. Let us know that you're here with us. If you happen to miss the show, and I hope you don't miss the show, you should never miss a show. But if you happen to miss a show, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Follow us on, let me turn my volume down. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on, you can catch our podcast, replay of our podcast on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Coach, we are 48 hours away. Excuse me for not being overly excited right now.
Yeah, you gotta keep calm and keep pressing on. 48 hours away. It was a long day today, right? I know you got back in the swing of things.
Oh man, it was rough today for me.
I, as crazy as it is that Ole Miss is playing in a college football playoff semifinal, it's almost like it's getting drowned out by the transfer portal and roster retention and
yeah. And we've had a good couple of days.
It's been a good couple of days for Ole Miss.
Would you say great couple of days, or are we just gonna keep it that good?
I think if you would have asked 100 Ole Miss fans in November, like the day after Thanksgiving, if the outcome is great that they've gotten so far, they would have all been like, "Yeah, that's great." So, really cool that a lot of your favorite Rebs will be back for the 2026.
Oh man,
season.
That is awesome.
But there's still business to attend to.
And Coach, one of the things that like we've been following it real time today, and just a couple of things we've been looking at, and it just plays to the fact that it lets you know how important Pete Golden really was. A lot of people really didn't understand the hire at first, and but when you know who's really putting these teams together, then it's easy to understand why they went in that direction. A lot of people thought it was a knee-jerk reaction. Everybody thought that, hey, maybe we're jumping the gun. Dare to say, even people was comparing it to what Mississippi State did a few years ago with Arnett. And even though in the grand scheme of things, it looked like it was parallel to it, you have to know what's really going on to not make that mistake in that. And I do believe that Keith Carter, it's clear what has been going on. That is why I'm not shocked at what's going on in the portal with Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly hired probably the best option they could get. I think that so the Sugar Bowl press conference where Pete was like, I really didn't, want it. But when I heard the people they were going to interview, he was kind of like, I think if it is offered to me, I kind of have to take it because I really, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but it was some quote to that effect. And, I thought in the moment it was a great hire to save the current situation. And I think that, time will tell. Like next year, you're moving to a 9-game conference schedule. It's a tough schedule compared to what they've had the past couple of years. But you have a lot of synergy. You have a lot of the fan base is behind you. Your boosters are behind you. Everybody's pulled in one direction, from administration all the way down to the team managers. I think that it was the right choice, and I think it was the correct choice to go ahead and say we're not putting an interim tag on it. We're going to go ahead and because I'm telling you, I think if there was an interim tag,
It leaves too much speculation, and
and
if
there
I'm a
was,
player, I need to know. I need to
and
know.
that yeah, and I think that you would not be because the season's not over for you to have made a decision yet, I guess. And we're so deep into this portal stuff that if he still has an interim tag, I don't know if you retain half the players you've retained, and I don't know if you've got anybody coming in through the portal because they, like you said, they don't know.
And I'm with you with that 100%. And that's why it was important. It was important that they made the right decision. And sometimes, like I said, we get so much stuff fed to us through media, and everybody is saying this, and that's the world. That's the world that we live in now. You know, we are we are people. You and I both. We're in a position now that we're listening. We're listening. We got. I know you and Pop. You know, I know myself, and now you let me know stuff ahead of time. It's just the fact that we're constantly we're monitoring the message boards. We're on Twitter. We're trying to figure out, and then trying to get that scoop. We're trying to get the information. So that's where we are. So people are going to come up with different things and why stuff need to be and this and that and the other. But I'm glad that they were able to make the correct decision, and it's paying off. And going into next year, even though you don't want to look into next year, regardless of the fact you only got at most 2 games left, you have to start preparing. No
Right.
matter what, you got 2 games left. Regardless, that's the max games you got left. So you do have to start preparing for next year.
And there's no spring portal window. That's over now. This is it. And I cautiously because none of this stuff's binding. Like these contracts that they're putting in front of these players hold zero weight. Uh, until them classes are in, they're enrolled in those classes and they log in for the first time.
Yeah.
I guess anything can happen, but I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if you could have a better few weeks to the start of your tenure as head coach as Pete Golden has.
Oh
It's
yeah.
worked
Oh
out
yeah.
really well for him.
I thought Hugh Freeze had ran into a great situation, man. This is probably the best thing. This is the best start of a coaching career that you can come up. But talking about the portal, and this was something that I was thinking about earlier today. And it's been talked. You seeing it on Get Out. You getting it on, seeing it on different things. A lot of people talking about the SEC. Is the SEC dominance over? Is it? And just want to get your take on that. When they talk about dominance, and one of the things they're saying is the SEC, is that over with now? Is the dominance over now? What's your take on it?
Um, I just think that the playing field's leveled. Like I do think like when you look at conferences, I think there's a pecking order, and I think the big. I'm not. I'm from the South, guys, so hear me out. But I think the Big Ten has the last 2 national championships,
Yeah,
and then but the SEC has been dominant for a long time. I think they're 1A, 1B. I think they can be interchangeable. My argument on SEC dominance, if I had an argument, would be 1, 2, 3 in the Big Ten. You know, probably there's probably what 5 teams at the beginning of the year, 5, 6 teams that believe they have a legitimate shot of making the playoffs in the
yeah,
Big Ten. The SEC, what the top 8, 9 teams, maybe more than that.
yeah.
I
All of them
mean,
feel like they
they
got you.
believe that it's playoffs or bust. I think that I think the SEC is a deeper conference. I think the floor is higher in the SEC. I think that the worst teams in the Big Ten would be by far the worst teams, or and there could be some teams in the middle that would finish at the bottom of the SEC. So that would be my argument on why I think the SEC is still a great conference. But also, the SEC is getting 5, 6, 5 bids in the playoffs, 4 or 5 bids every year, and they're matching up with each other. They're beating each other. Like Oregon's not played a SEC team. Indiana did beat Alabama, but Alabama beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Ole Miss beat Georgia. You know, the matchups there, or you get more SEC versus SEC teams because there's more SEC teams in the tournament. So you're seeing them beat up on each other, and you know, I just think that at the top of the Big Ten, and there's about 8 or 9 SEC teams. I think that that's the upper echelon of college football, and then I think there's a gap to the rest of it. You know, even I know Miami's on this great run. No disrespect to them. I think we're having a respect off this week, but I don't consider the ACC in the same, even close to the same breath
And
as
let us not forget
and
how
we may
got in.
I may be getting checked really hard come the night after the Fiesta Bowl, but as a conference as a whole, I mean it's the Big Ten, the SEC, and then there's no one else. I mean it's not comparable.
I think the thing is the main thing is when I think about dynasties and everything, you know, and how the SEC had such a hold on everything. College football reminds me now of where Major League Baseball is. It reminds me more of Major League Baseball than it does the NFL, and here's why. I feel like that in Major League Baseball, you really don't know that you can't really build a dynasty. You know, you don't know who's going to win year to year. You don't have like the Yankees running off 2, 3, 4 championships in 5 years. You don't have the Red Sox running off 2 or 3 championships in 5 years. You may have the Devil Rays in a championship. You might have the Orioles win a championship. Turn around, the Houston Astros win a championship. Crap, the Arizona Diamondback win it. You know that, and I think because we only have 1 year agreements, that it's going to be difficult to build dynasties now. And until there is now, I don't want government involved. I didn't like. I don't forget. Crap. It was one of the personalities that had mentioned, getting the government involved to get some type of collective bargaining. Oh,
It'll never get done then.
you know what? And the source that it was coming from is from Bruce Pearl. Never mind. But it's from Bruce Pearl. Out of all the people that I'm gonna listen to, I'm definitely not gonna listen to Bruce Pearl. But with 1 year contracts or agreements, it's just gonna be very difficult. And this whole notion that you have to be at the blue bloods universities is no longer a thing. And this is where a lot of people didn't understand what I was saying in the beginning with the whole Lane Kiffin thing. Is if you go back and take your fan hat off and listen to what we were saying, we was never knocking him leaving and going because crap, you offered me 90 million. I you might be coach podcast, but but you'll be by yourself. But but the fact is that helmets and all of that stuff, I don't think it matter anymore because look at what we got in the Final Four. You got Indiana versus Oregon, and you got Miami versus Ole Miss in the Final Four. Let that
Yeah.
sink in.
Um,
When it used to be Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia. I mean, it was constantly they was just regurgitating, and now it's just something totally different.
yeah, it it definitely is, and I think that you're one misevaluation away from falling out of contention
Yeah,
from year to year, and you're one great evaluation away from climbing. And it, like you said, it is truly a year to year thing. So I think you have programs that like are going to spend money and be able to be there. But I think it's also when you went from a 12-game season, conference championship, BCS national championship, two highest ranked teams playing the national championship game. Then you went to a 14 playoff. Well, now, if you're a team that is ranked 5th through 12th, you have to win, the on-campus game, the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and then the national championship. You're playing 4 extra games.
yeah,
And I do think, and I said this the other night too, is I think that this playoff could produce different champions all the time because the more quality games you play, you know, somebody's going to get you at some point. Like Ole Miss and Georgia just played in a super physical game. Ohio State and Miami just played in a super physical game.
yeah.
Now Ole Miss and Miami is about to do it, and you just off by a little bit, people may be surprised. If the other team's off by a little bit, people may have been like, we knew this all along. But I think that the playoff setup, the era that we're in, and um, the turnovers that you see in rosters from year to year, I think that I wouldn't say that dominance is over for just any one body. Anybody, I think anybody could rise, from year to year. I just think it's just an unknown. We're going to go into the fall next year, and outside of a handful of teams, we're really not going to know anything about these teams till they line up and play on Saturdays.
And I mean, it's just, and I kind of like it this way because it it's just a parody of everything. It's just, you don't want the game to get monotonous, and it was fine for Alabama fans. Yeah, they loved it. It was fine for my buddy Roman. He loved it. My brother, they loved it. They loved it. Alabama, Alabama, Alabama. But we got tired of seeing it because it wasn't us. So now
Right.
it gives opportunities that probably wouldn't have been because they were able to do things, and whether it was under the table or not. I've been in the recruiting I've been in the recruiting doors, and I've had kids had a kid that was being recruited by those teams, and I know about those $100 handshakes and know about all that stuff. So they just had the resources, and those that got caught got punished, and those that didn't flourish. I mean, we was one of the ones that got caught. So I mean, it is what it is. But we are 48 hours away, Coach, and man, I want to get into the keys of the game, the things that need to happen for Ole Miss to take that next step and get to January the 19th to that championship game, and just getting and we I know there's been a lot of talk about the defense and this and that and the other, but we're gonna let you take this thing away as you get us prepared for what's about to happen. Coach Benji, key of the game.
So yeah, keys to the game. You know, I think that I think Ole Miss and Miami is just an interesting matchup. I think that the things that you see Miami want to do defensively, like how they're going to like add fitters to the box or trigger men and blitzes and things like that's all determined by a lot of it's determined by formation, motion, uh, boundary or field, things of that nature. And one way you neutralize that, you keep them in a base defense, is you win on early downs. That's kind of been Ole Miss's recipe all season long against quality defenses, is they find a way to pick up yards on first down, which allows them to use tempo. And when you can do that, if you can use your tempo, the chances of you keeping a defense kind of simple, kind of basic, are pretty favorable. And then if you're able to stay ahead of the chains, you don't allow, Miami's got a two-way edge. You can kind of control some of that pass rush. Although I think, I'd love to know the stat on how, the seconds per drop back from the time the ball is snapped to the time the ball it's released by Chambliss, because he don't really hold on to the ball a lot. If he is holding on to it, he's usually, extending plays, keeping his eyes downfield, escaping the pocket. So I actually think that Ole Miss, I think the offense kind of matches up well with Miami's defense, just based on from a philosophy standpoint. So that would be my key for the offense, and then defensively, do not give up explosive plays.
Mm.
Carson Beck is below a 60% passer on passes 20 plus yards in the air. Can you not blow your coverages? I thought the secondary, since getting Antonio Kite back healthy, getting Jalen Braxton back to full health, I think the secondary's been better. They still are kind of bad about getting some tick tacky, get handsy, get some penalties on them. But I thought they covered a lot better than than what you saw through previous games, especially like even in the Tulane game. I wouldn't say they were blowing coverages, but they weren't really where they were supposed to be. I thought they did a better job against Georgia. Beck's really efficient at getting the ball out quick, getting the ball into the flat, whether it's the now screens, the out routes, just attacking the flats. And one thing we did see, and this leads again to not giving up explosives, is and I thought Ole Miss did a better job of it in the second half, but there was a drive late or it might have been middle, it was either late first quarter, early second quarter, somewhere in there, where Ole Miss they have Georgia in 3rd and 11, and they run a screen pass, and it's this huge gain because they just missed a bunch of tackles. They didn't hold containment on the edge, and then I believe it was 3rd and 12, and Gunnar Stockton rolls out, triggers the flat defender to come force him to make a decision whether to run or throw, and he dumps it off to the running back. And again, we just missed tackles like crazy and allowed him, we did a better job forcing him back inside, or he probably scores, which they go ahead and score later. But a ton of missed tackles led to explosives. So tackle in space, don't blow your coverages. Because Beck, I think if you can, not blow coverages, cover down the field, if he does take shots, he will throw it to you sometimes. So just make sure you're where you're supposed to be. So I think you have to win on early downs. You have to be able to keep them in front of you and tackle in space, because they're going to get out in space and try to make you miss. I think that's the two biggest keys for an Ole Miss victory.
I do believe running the football is going to be huge. Just looking at the Louisville game, one of the games that Miami did lose, Louisville had 119 yards rushing, and with a defensive line like that, if they're controlling the line of scrimmage like that, then you're putting yourself in a good situation. And also, they lost to SMU, and in that same, it was the same narrative. SMU had 159 yards rushing, so rushing the football is going to be huge. I think this is a game where you utilize Chambliss legs. I think this is a game to get those defensive linemen huffing and puffing and get them to leaning over a little bit. I think you're going to have to. He's going to. This got to be a 5-6 run show with a little dab of 22. Now, I do not want to see the end around with who is it? Deuce. I don't want to see that.
Randy Watkins and Deuce Alexander.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Haven't worked all year. Don't want to see it. But I do believe that if we can get, I'm looking at halftime. If Ole Miss is plus 80, or not even that much, if they're
plus, say that if you're plus 80, you're gonna have a good night.
I would say plus 65 at halftime. I think Ole Miss is in a great position if they're plus 65 to be on the winning side. I do believe tempo is going to be important. Tempo is going to be important. We got to keep those linemen on the field. I think we like you said, don't put ourselves in situations. Like you said earlier, and we talked before we got on. Chambliss don't have to win this ball game, and that's the beauty. He can be the icing on the cake, and he's more than capable of being the icing on the cake. But he don't have to win. He don't have to make those great plays. I just feel like getting him involved in the running game will be important this week because when you're in a game-to-game situation once you get to this point, and I think he need to be involved in a lot of RPOs where it's RPO.
Yeah.
If it's not there, Chambliss, take it. Take it, get down. Let's get 6. It's okay. If he can come off the edge or he see that pocket collapse, step up, get you 6. Step up, get you 5. Step up, get you 7. Let's give it.
You very well could see it because of how aggressive they play up front. If they decide to say we're going to go +1 here and read, you may be able to pull one and run the football. Because if there's one thing, I went back and watched a bit of Ohio State, Miami. Miami's defense is very aggressive. I'm talking about they come downhill. So, I agree with you. And the one thing I didn't really put it down as a running the football as a key because the one thing it's hard to say that Ole Miss has just kind of found ways to run the football throughout the year outside of that Georgia game.
First Georgia game.
Other than that, they've kind of just figured it out. And I think they do a good job of running, figuring out where the numbers are, things like that. But I also think in this portal era where it's so important to have continuity, for some reason they hit it on the head with this offensive line. I think they communicate well. They're a talented group. I think they've progressed a ton from throughout the season.
That was the part of the. I thought me and you both thought that was the part of the team that we thought that was lacking.
Yeah.
The offensive line coach, took a beating from, social media and everything else because but it's amazing how quietly they haven't given up many sacks at all. And they're rushing they allowed a running back to be one of the top in the nation.
Yeah, he's number 2 in rushing yards.
This offensive line has been elite this year.
Yeah.
So the one side of the football that I thought that wasn't going to be very strong has ended up pretty, very strong, and that's going to be important with a line like this. And I'm just like you said, teams that have one dominant, when you look at a defense, you got the defensive line, you got the linebackers, and you got the defensive backfield, and I look at that's 3 phases right there. That's 3 phases for me. And I need a balance in those 3 phases. I don't if I know we're not going to share the whole 100%, but I definitely don't need one of those phases to chew up 50 or more % of my success rate. And I think that's the advantage that I think that's the advantage that you can take advantage of, is that, if they are that dominant on that side, then, most times you can, I can see, I see a lot of short game. You don't too much run. Well, I know in high school, in college, you don't run no post drag, but I can see Daquan Wright getting back involved this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he haven't had a big game, in a while, and it will be great for him. And I think injuries have played a part. And you get this game done Thursday, you get some time to recover. You get some time.
This was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and you get past this game, you get some time to recover. You get some people healthy, but it's going to be a game that, where coaching, you're going to have to coach I know we say players win games, but this is going to be a game where coach is going to have to win this game. Coaching will have to win this game because you got great players on both sides of the football. Coaching and that between the ears is what's going to have to kick in this game. Being able to see and like I said, Charlie Weiss called an amazing game. Joe Judge, which I have to give him credit to because he's overseeing these things that's being called in. I do not lessen what Joe Judge means to this offense.
Yeah, and I think he was huge for retention of this roster. I think he played a big part on the offensive side of the football. Even
in the play calling, Coach, I do believe that that he is the one that's filtering these plays. I just think you got a group of coaches who don't mind sharing, the recognition. I don't think they ain't got a problem with, saying, this guy did a heck of, he did a heck of a job calling. But I think people are missing how important Joe Judge really is to the game that's going to be called on Thursday night.
Yeah, because it seems like, especially when you see Golding, like looking at the videotape, in between drives of the defense or when the offense is on the field, he kind of is like, hey, y'all, if y'all feel like you need a timeout here, just take your timeout. If you need this, let's, y'all are the offense. I'm gonna go over here and make adjustments. I'm kind of curious how that works down the
Yeah.
line. But for this playoff run, I feel like they've done a really good job of maximizing themselves as a staff.
Yeah, I'm like that. Figure all that stuff out next year. Figure it out in the spring. Right now, go
Yeah.
win it. Go win the Natty.
Right.
Well, let's move to the defensive side of the ball as we look at Ole Miss defense, who have really turned, have done. I ain't gonna say a complete 180, but I say a 140, 120. I wouldn't say a complete 180 because we still have some. We're still sometimes out of position. Tackling was horrible, I think, in that first half. I think we got a little bit more physical. No, we got a lot more physical in the second half, and we started making tackles. But what do Ole Miss have to do on the defensive side of the ball? I mean, do we have to be aggressive? Will our front four be able to get the pressure that needed and stop the run?
I think that I've kind of asked myself that same question. I just don't think you should do anything. If they've kind of had a formula. They kind of play bend but don't break.
Yeah.
And it's worked for them. I just don't think you just go up and change that and just get super aggressive and start dialing up a bunch of crazy blitzes and getting press man and all that. I don't know how much, you may mix some things in. The one thing I will say, I thought the defense played so much better in the second half.
Yeah.
Was because if you noticed early in the game, they were doing a lot of stunting, like run stunts. They were doing a lot of pre-snap movement, like they'd shift the front, and I don't know if they were catching them in that shift and in the on the snap count or whatever, and were able to just move them. Like I looked up one time in TJ Dottery, like no one's getting hands on anybody, so their tackles are like getting second level and just putting our backers on skates. And I thought you saw more in the second half where they just kind of lined up and played ball, and just hey, I'm going to protect. I'm going to do my gap responsibility job up front. We're going to scrape and fill, yada yada yada, and they did that. So maybe they play an even simpler type of game because I do think there's some similarities in this Miami offense with what Georgia does, and they are definitely going to try to run the football right at you. So if you get in that situation where you're kind of, where you're worried about, getting blown off the ball and maybe getting misaligned and things, trying to shift and stuff, maybe you just kind of go a little base defense and just see if you can't win up front.
And I think they play a lot with Pete. Pete has made things simple so you can play fast.
Yeah.
Don't come with all those exotic things. Make it simple so you can just play fast and do what needs to be done. When I look at Centurion Perkins and man, his number reminds me of another guy, and I mean body type, same type of aggression. I think he's a better version of Denzel Kendichi.
Yeah.
They remind me a lot, just undersized. I still don't know what he played. I don't know if it's outside linebacker or defensive end.
And I meant to say this in our recap the other night, but did you not feel like they put him in more pass rush situations?
Yeah.
Like they tried to give themselves a two-way edge with Iman Mielen and
because of his speed.
Perkins.
And one thing I can say about Perkins this season is, I mean, as the season progressed, he's learning the technique of a defensive end.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of his stuff and the way he uses his hands, the way that it's not just let me just speed you through. He's learning how to dictate and get linemen to lean and move and just give them just enough to give him the edge to either to get around or to get him or to get underneath them. And that's great coaching. The defensive line coach is incredible with how I just look at how they do their scheme and just the technical things. One thing that people is not getting, Ole Miss defensive line is one of the most technical lines that you saw in a long time. They're not, and maybe because they at first wasn't as stacked as we was in previous time. We had players that, Lawrence Taylor was one of the guys that, I'm Lawrence Taylor. I don't have to, do this drill. I'm going to beat that I'm going to beat that offensive tackle, whether I use my hands or not. I think these guys have really learned and really polished their technique, and you're seeing it now. You're seeing them being very technical in their movements and how they use their hand, how they use their punch, and what and man, I wish high schoolers could get this, because man, who is, when you're facing an offensive line in high school, if you learn leverage, learn how to, you don't have to bull rush them. Just a slight movement can leverage them in a place where you can get around. And if high schoolers can learn this, you will be the most dominant defensive end in the state of that you're in. But most time, we just want to try to bull rush. And that's what I'm seeing, is that they really, and that's what I really see in him, is that he is really using his hands like an experienced defensive end. And I think him and Daughtery will be huge. We got a tackle. We don't need to. Now, will there be some big games? Miami's going to run the football. They're going to have some big games.
I think this is going to be I think this is. I kind of like the over in this game.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be some points scored.
But you know what? No, Miami wants to. They want to slow this tempo down. Mm-hmm. They want to eat that clock, and I do believe Miami. It's Carson Beck. He's still Carson Beck. I'm not finna get. I'm glad he was able to revamp his career after Georgia just kind of just threw him under the bus and just said, "Forget you." And for him to be where he is amazing. But he's still Carson Beck.
And he does really well what they ask of him. He is prone to throw you the football. Like in their 2 losses, I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with turnovers. And I think the SMU game had some penalties, but that Louisville game was poof.
So here's my question to you, Coach. I'm glad you said that. Here's my question to you. Do you force the issue? And I'm not saying put 8 in the box, but you make it, if we're not letting you run the football, throw it. Do you trust our defensive backs to do that?
Me personally, I don't. But they've been a better unit, but man, I don't know. I don't know if I trust them that much.
Yeah. It feels good. It sounds good. I would rather have Carson Beck, have to throw the football. It's kind of like with Stockton. I didn't want Stockton running. I was okay with Stockton throwing the football.
Yeah.
It was the first time we played him, it was Stockton legs that gave us trouble. And then because of that, he was able to, hit the throws and was able to be successful. But I would much rather that we put this game in his hands and say, okay, you beat us. We're not finna let y'all run up and down. Y'all not finna over aggress us. I want to see, can he throw the football?
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to try to take some shots. They get the running game going. They're going to try to take some shots in play action. You got to be where you're supposed to be and hope that he throws you one, because they'll take some shots. But like I said, his completion percentage drops off pretty far. Like when you look at his numbers from like 0 to 10 yards, and then you look from 10 to 15 yards, it's pretty good numbers. And it just falls off a cliff on 20 plus.
Well, the national media has made it clear. Everybody and their grandma is picking Miami to win the game. And it's almost the notion that everybody feels, it's been a magical season because this is what I think. I don't think it's just technical. I don't think it's just them feeling that Miami is better than us. I think they believe Ole Miss is satisfied. We made it to the semifinals. And I feel like how I'm hearing them talk is like, okay, you made it to the semifinals. Hey, good. And I think they feel that we are. I think they feel this team is okay with just getting to where they're at.
Yeah, and I think that um I think that some of the media is really, really just beat this Charlie Weiss going back to Baton Rouge and then going here and then going back to Baton Rouge and then going back to Oxford and then going to Arizona with the rest of the coaches. I mean, and I get it. You know, the portal open adds a new,
Yeah.
wrench into some of this stuff. But like, no one's talking about the fact that Oregon, their defensive coordinator is the head
Yep.
coach at Cal, who had to put his portal class together while putting a plan together to go play Indiana. And no one wants to talk about how Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon, is the head coach of Kentucky and is trying to put his portal class together at Kentucky and then trying to put a game plan together. So I kind of get the sentiment, but it's like, if we're going to talk about it with, which I think everybody's picking Indiana too, but you know, it's not like Ole Miss is the only one, and I feel like when you add in what you're saying, plus the fact that the coaching staff deal, I just don't think anybody's really giving Ole Miss a chance in this game.
And it's different.
Which is fine with me. I'd rather fly under the radar. I'd rather be able to say, "Hey, they don't respect us," than, boy, you got to talk your team down. It's a lot different when every time your team turns the TV on, they're saying, if they're pumping you full of the rat poison, I guess, as Nick Saban and Lane would like to say. But it's a lot easier to, get your team up when they've been told they're going to lose all week.
And it's just, this is an unprecedented thing that has went on with the whole saga. And you know what Ole Miss have been through a lot this year. There has been, I know some teams that went through some things, but the things that Ole Miss went through with the death of Corey and regardless of what you say, is nothing like feeling like you're not good enough. Everybody's gonna get on camera, everybody's gonna get on in front of the mic and say the correct thing. Well, I'm gonna say what you're thinking. You know, there's nothing like feeling that my coach felt that I wasn't good enough. And that could have went south, it could have went another way. And dealing with that and then trying to do all of this at once, I think this is why I feel like this team is built to win a championship because of everything that has happened this year.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, like I told you before we started, I thought like the Georgia game was the perfect example of this team's faced a ton of adversity and watching Ole Miss play teams like Georgia and Alabama in the past, Ole Miss may take a lead into the fourth quarter, but could never finish Georgia or Alabama or Team X off. And then the other night, the fact that it just seems like they've been through a lot and it's created a tighter team, and I think it's a team of really good kids too. I think this is I think it's just a good I think if you went, it's a shame because it didn't get covered, but I think there's a ton of great stories on this team. From the players.
You win this national championship, ESPN is going to buy the right. They are so ready to do the E60 on this one. Man, they are ready for this.
Yeah.
So this is a story built for TV. This is a Netflix special right here. Ole Miss, getting to this point. I was sitting there thinking, I remember when, back in the day, when they had the DVDs and everything, and you remember when we played in the Cotton Bowl and Dexter
The Return to Glory.
Oh, man.
And the One Heartbeat DVD.
I ordered it and overpaid for it because I wanted it. When the baseball team won the national championship, I sat here and waited and waited. I bought that documentary because, and this is just going to be special and not taking nothing from Miami. But and I think Ole Miss just, we're not as flamboyant as the alumni of Miami players, but we're going to be just as represented in Glendale as and
Look out now.
I think, Coach, that the Ole Miss faithful are going to flood that place.
Yeah, I agree.
this will be a home game for the University of Mississippi. And man,
Yeah,
this
I completely agree.
because I mean it's just the fact I I'm very happy for the fan base because the fans and the student section got criticized over and over and over and over again. And for them, I just think it's important, not just for all. I was talking to some kids today, and I said, it's not just the players. I said the band, the band, the cheerleaders, none of them have been able to just have a break. Like this is all hands on deck. Everybody is being a part of this, and man, it's just these next 2 days. And like I was telling you earlier, I would love to be. I hate it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I hate it. I would love to be a fan right now and just enjoy the moment and trash talk and do my stuff. But for some reason, my coach hat for the last 2 weeks have just been on in this. It's just that coach hat. Uh, it's just the coach hat has been on, and I can't enjoy this thing. I'm thinking about I'm looking at because we look at the game inside of the game, and that's the unfortunate thing about you and I because we are coaches, so we're gonna look deeper than than you should, and
Yeah.
we're trying to and we're looking at all of this stuff as the game progresses. But that's because I mean this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we love. So I mean, how have you been able, being the fan for so long? How have you been able to just take it in, or have you been able to take it in?
Oh yeah, I'm soaking it all in. For me, I've sat through a lot of bad football. Um, so and then getting to talk about it as much as we do, I think also helps you because you have to pay attention to it, or people are going to get on here and call you frauds and everything. So you have to pay attention. So I'm locked in.
And then I'll be ready to argue with them either way.
So I mean, I just, I mean, I will try. I don't know if my wife is listening. They make credit cards for a reason. If we get past this, I will find a way to be in Miami. That's how locked in
Coach,
and
I'm
wanting
telling
to
you
soak
now.
it in that
I'm
I'm here
telling
for it.
Coach, I'm telling you now that if Ole Miss gets to this championship game,
Nope,
then
she just texted me and said she's listening.
if I have to go on the square and sit on the sidewalk with a can and a bucket, and I get my keyboard and just play music all day, I'm going to the national championship game,
Going to the game. We got
Coach.
to get there, but I'm telling you, and it's weird too, Coach. There's
Man,
not been a moment like we were down 21-12, and I just felt like, hey, we got them right where we want them. We're gonna figure this thing out in the
I
Georgia
didn't
game.
feel that way. I
I
didn't.
did. It just felt like, and then I heard a lot of people's, that were at the game were like, there was just, you just felt it in the air. Like it just felt like it was supposed to be our night. And, Miami is, I on Twitter, it says we're having a respect off. So, and I do believe this. Like, I think Miami is absolutely as advertised, elite defense. Carson Beck's,
I
been a
think
very efficient player, but
I think the
I
reason why
feel good about it.
I think the reason why it's like that is because of how critical, you know, the media has been of Cristobal. And I think Ole Miss fan kind of sympathize. I think fans kind of sympathize with his story as well because they've been wanting him fired since he's been there.
Yeah.
And for him to have the
Which he's
team,
done some things. He's lost some games,
yeah,
again, respect off, but he has lost some games that, I mean, he made some decisions that's cost them in the past, but he's absolutely, I'm not Miami, historian, I don't know Miami's history, but, um, I think they went 5-7 one year and then they had a 10-win season. They had this season.
yeah.
I mean, he's consistently picked it up. I mean, he's built a heck of a program down there. And, he's another Nick Saban off that tree. So
Let me answer this. We're not talking as fans. Yes, if you go back and check, no, you might not have wanted him fired, but yes, that has been public talk of them wanting him gone. So don't do that, man. Just don't. We're not saying stuff out of just to be saying stuff. Yes, it has. Go back and check. Do not do that. Do not do that. Don't act like this is just. No, we're not just yapping. We're not just, Coach, I got it. No, we're not just yapping. We study this stuff. Yes, it has. Go on, Coach.
like I said, I'm not a Miami historian.
Yeah,
So
I've been, I knew, I
um,
knew, because Miami was one of my first teams. I've been following them since '89. So, yeah, I know too. But go ahead, Coach.
but I feel good about it. We'll see. And I know I've said this 100 times too, but like, it's never worked out for Ole Miss to be in this situation many times. We've played the Texas Techs a lot. We played the Oklahoma States a lot.
Yeah.
Used to, if I wanted to play Miami, I had to play them on NCAA football. So I think it's a cool matchup, and I think that the next round, whether it's Ole Miss, Oregon, Ole Miss, Indiana, Miami, Oregon, Miami, Indiana, I think there's some really cool matchups. So I just look forward to it. I think last year I kind of checked out on it because it seemed like it took forever to get to January, the whatever, to get to this national championship. I really enjoyed this run, and I've enjoyed some of the matchups that this year's playoff has created. So,
But yeah, this playoff,
here's to hoping to get to one more game.
yeah, this playoff has been probably one of the best. That's why we need to keep it at 12 and not go crazy and go 67 teams like everybody wanted. I think we got to be
Yeah,
able.
you just get rid of the automatic qualifier crap with the group of five,
Yeah,
and you let the 12 best teams in, and you have your 12-team playoff, and it's all good.
and you get this, and I haven't saw the numbers yet, but I bet this was probably one of the biggest viewed playoffs that they've ever had before. I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but I would love to get the numbers of this year's playoffs. But well, yeah, but I think the Ohio State Miami game was a big because there was a that game was a big game too. I love that game. Uh, and I watched that game and but I'm looking up something now. I'm trying to get to see what the viewing has looked like this
I know
year.
that Ole Miss did. You talking about for the playoffs?
Yeah,
I know the Ole Miss Georgia game. I think like the average was 19.6 million, and it peaked at 21.4. I think 21.4 million. I may be off by a little bit, but I think it was pretty close to that. The ratings have been like I think that um each at least each quarterfinal hit like a 15% raise in viewership over last year. I think I saw that. It was anywhere from like 10 to 15%. So the viewing there's a lot of eyeballs that have been on the quarterfinals and the I don't know about the first round games, but I should have screenshot it. I saw a graphic where they were talking about it was a post of all the viewership and it looked it looked like every game was up from last year's viewership.
yeah, and that's why you don't want to lose that by oversaturating so many teams and losing that because right now, even though the NCAA got a lot of stuff that they got to clean up, you got something rolling right now, and you don't want to mess that up. You don't want to mess that up.
There's plenty of issues in college football. Um,
Yeah, a lot.
I don't think playoff expansion should be at the very top of the list of things to fix.
But Coach, man, we are 48 hours away. We're 48 hours away, and Anything you want to share with the Ole Miss faithful before, because they won't hear from us no more until after this game.
If you have a chance, go check out hairraidradio.blog.
Put that in the chat, Coach.
I have a story up about pretty much it's from my eyes, from what I can remember, about the how we've had some success, but this is the first time I feel like we can that's wrong. .blog. This is the first time I think we can sustain success. I'll update every player that retains at Ole Miss and is added from the portal. There's that on there. Several other stories. I wrote a Chandler story, wrote a little bit of a preview for Miami, and we'll continue. I'll probably sit down and have something posted sometime in the morning. So if you would like to go check that out, it costs you absolutely nothing. I just enjoy doing it, trying to create a portfolio to get deeper into writing. And then, if you're going to Arizona, enjoy yourself, be safe. I wish I was going with you. I'd love to go play TPC Scottsdale one day while I was out there and then go to the game. So, I'm not getting to do any of that. So I hope that y'all do. I will be here watching the game and, we'll be live. If we win, Coach, we might have to go live that night because
it'll be the
biggest win in Ole Miss football history.
I don't care what time it is, Coach. I will make my way to the studio, and we are going live. We will do that, man, because I wouldn't be able to sleep anyway. But Coach, before we get off here, man, you know me. You know me. You try to keep me under control sometime, but sometimes I just gotta say what I gotta say and just leave it alone. In 2022, when he took over, they went 5-7. Coach, they lost to Texas A&M, unranked. They lost to Middle Tennessee. They lost to North Carolina. They lost to Duke. They lost to Florida State. They lost to Clemson, and they lost to Pitt. Coach, in the next in 2023, they went 7-6. Coach, they lost to Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, Florida State, Louisville, Rutgers. You're not finna tell me that everybody was okay with that. So kill that noise that he was not on the hot seat, because he was. Go back and check your stuff. But that's all good. That's all we got for you tonight. We ain't gonna hold you up long. But Coach, man, hey, if we pull this thing off, I'm talking about Miami. Had somebody on there trying to check me on Miami like I don't do my stuff. We study this stuff. We don't get on and just talk about stuff. But Coach, 48 hours away. Biggest game in Ole Miss history. And
we're here for it.
We're here for it. And if everything plays like it's supposed to play, well, you're gonna see us anyway. We ain't gonna run from it. If we lose, we gonna get on. I don't know how long. I don't know when we'll get on. I might have to have some time to think and decompress.
Yeah.
Because I think Jeff Teague said it best. I'm a sore loser, so I ain't gonna want to get on if we lose. If you go back and look at the live. Yeah, go back and look at the live when we tried to go live the Georgia game the first time. I didn't want to talk to y'all no more after that game transpired at the end, so you better believe. But if we win this thing, we gonna be on, and it's gonna be a party. We might even bring some people on. Well, man, it's for my co-host, the offensive coordinator who laid it down for you. Make sure I'm gonna put this on Spotify tonight and Apple Podcasts so you can go back and listen to the keys of the game, because this guy right there has been spot on every single game when it comes to Ole Miss. So if you get it right, hey Coach, if you get hired, you need an analyst, you need somebody, you better hire me.
I got you.
He's been spot on every time. So if you want to go back and listen to the keys of the game, one thing I like about Spotify, it'll break down the chapters for you. You can go find the keys of the game right off the bat. But for Coach and Coach, this is Coach Benji. Coach Marks. Coach, this is it, man. The next time I see you, we will be headed to the national championship.
I hope you're right.
Till then, this is the Coach and Coach podcast. We'll see you on the next one, guys.